Good morning and welcome to the last episode of Season 1 on our podcast,
where we drink tea and navigate the balance between school and personal life.
I'm Sophia Safe.
And I'm Sophia Curry.
And this is Sip and Spill.
Welcome back to the Tea Journal.
The topic we'll be touching on today is how to live authentically.
So let's start out by talking about what is living authentically.
Okay, so living authentically means aligning your actions with your core values, beliefs, and desires, rather than conforming to external pressures or societal expectations. It's about being true to yourself and expressing your genuine personality, thoughts, and feelings in all aspects of life.
Okay, now we can kind of talk a little bit about what the opposite of that might be. So the opposite of living authentically involves denying one's freedom and responsibility, often by conforming to external expectations, like Sophia said, or predetermined roles rather than making conscious choices aligned with one's own values and desires. Other terms that describe aspects of this opposite include conformity, hypocrisy, falsity, and living a false self.
I feel like another addition I want to make to that is sheep mentality, where you just do what everyone else does or do something because it's trendy and not being your own individual.
Yeah. Sheep, mob mentality, all of that. And I think this is something us as teens go have like a moment with. Like we're like,
Absolutely.
we're going through this, it's hard because, we're all trying to figure out where we fit in, who our friends are, what we believe, what we stand for, and then like who we like to be around. And it's so easy to fall into that peer pressure and just those crowds.
Absolutely. And like we mentioned in previous episodes, who you surround yourself with is who you eventually take pieces from. And so being around people that have your core beliefs and core values and what you want to be in life can make you a better person. Whereas someone who may not have the same values as you, obviously you can be friends with, but know that they will rub off on you.
Yeah. And I think this is such a good, ending topic for our first season, because I think ultimately high school is where people, high school, middle school is where people find themselves almost, for lack of a better term. They're finding their friends, they're finding their crowd, they're finding, not only who they want to be with, but also what they want to be and, where they want to be and, stuff that interests them.
Absolutely.
And, at the end, this is to end our sophomore year and our sophomore summer. I kind of go by the summers after.
I agree.
So to end our sophomore summer, this is kind of I think personally the both of us have gone through major growth this year, just even with school, but personally just learning more about ourselves and how to live more authentically. And I think Sophia had a handle on that a little bit longer than I did, but that's okay because we all work on our own time.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So
let's start with some key aspects of living authentically.
Yes.
Do you want to start with that?
Sure. So the first one is self-awareness. Understanding your own values, beliefs, strengths, weaknesses, and emotions is crucial for living authentically. I think ultimately that is the first thing you should think about because
it makes your foundation.
Yeah, that's your foundation.
It really does make up who you are as a person.
And that's ultimately the key to living authentically is, self-awareness, of course, along with the rest of these things.
So the next one we have is alignment of actions and values. So this means making choices and taking actions that reflect your true self, rather than trying to be someone you're not or living up to others' expectations.
Yes. So go ahead.
This means living up to who you believe you should be as a person and living to those healthy goals that we had mentioned in a previous episode.
Yeah. And I think something that happens a lot with teenagers is we don't even realize that we start becoming like the people around us and we're kind of oblivious to it at some points. So, making sure that you pay attention, and I guess I can already pick out our mantra for this episode, the key to living authentically is self-awareness, because that is ultimately the basis for the rest of these key aspects here is, is being self-aware. Who are you? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to present to the world?
Agreed.
And I think it's so easy to get caught up in what everybody else, wants. and who they want you to be and just stuff like that. So, you know, again, like Sophia said, like, are you aligning with your actions and values? Like, you know, you could believe something, but, you know, it's tempting to act another way to not, I don't want to say not even to seem cool, but just even in the moment, make yourself more comfortable in a situation.
Right. Or succumb to peer pressure.
Yes. And then moving into the next one is acceptance of self. Embracing your whole self, including your flaws and imperfections, and not trying to hide or deny aspects of your personality.
I feel like this also goes hand in hand with self-awareness.
Yes.
And realizing that you are different than those around you. You're not going to be the same person. Comparing yourself to someone else isn't going to make you any better of a person.
Yeah.
It really is just improving. You are your own competition.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like is crucial. And the only person you should be comparing yourself to is yourself. And watching yourself grow and heal over time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's scary, you know, to be not, I don't want to say proud of your flaws, but to show to the world, hey, I've accepted them because, you know, nobody wants to be seen for what they've done wrong. But I think more often than not, there's power in that vulnerability and power in, you know, saying, hey, I messed up, but I'm owning it. And it shows that, you know, you've taken, you know, responsibility for yourself. That's an admirable thing, you know, to take responsibility and accountability. So, you know, that kind of moves into, you know, or well, that it, well, I mean, that is acceptance of self. Is
Right.
like, you know, you need to be able to accept who you are to live authentically, which moves into, my bad, into vulnerability. Go ahead.
So that is being willing to show your true self to others, even if it means being vulnerable or potentially facing criticism. I feel like it's fair if you're not yet able to show your true self to others fully.
Mm-hmm.
I know I tend to keep a lot to myself when it comes to new relationships, like as in friendships, new people that I'm seeing. And then you obviously you slowly show your true self to someone.
Right.
Slowly open up to people that you start to trust and start to really get to know.
Mm-hmm. And just because, you know, it's good to be vulnerable, you don't have to be vulnerable with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a little much. Like, you know, not everybody needs to know your whole life story. Like,
absolutely,
you know, it's what you're comfortable with on your own time, which moves into, again, you know, honesty and integrity. So when you are vulnerable with these people, you also want to live with honesty and integrity in your interactions with others and in your own self-reflection, so that, you know, you're vulnerable with your stuff, but also, like, are you being honest, and are you living with that integrity of, you know, say you had done the wrong thing in the past, have you taken ownership of that, and, you know, are you doing the right thing now when nobody's looking, and have you improved, and then can you continue to do that, you know, despite others.
And of course that comes with being honest with yourself and not just honest with other people, like you just said. Being like having integrity even in situations where no one can see you.
Mm-hmm. And again, to go back to our mantra, you know, like the key thing is self-awareness. How aware are you of your behaviors and how you react to certain situations, or, you know, how easily, I don't want to say you fall for traps, but how easily you might fall into trends because it's a trend versus falling into something because you genuinely like it. And it's, you know, that's a hard thing to do, especially as a teenager. And we've talked about this before, you know, finding your crowd and finding who you're comfortable with and who speaks to you. And that's a huge thing because they can allow you to start being free with yourself and, like, being your actual self rather than forcing you to conform to how they act.
Absolutely. And like you said, that ties into freedom from conformity. So that's like resisting the pressure to did you just say this?
I guess so, but go ahead.
Okay. Resisting the pressure to conform to societal norms or expectations that don't align with your true self. So this could be, for example, just a way you dress.
Yeah.
Like, you want to show your true self in your style, for example, and not just do what everyone else is doing because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
Again, not going along with that herd mentality, mob mentality kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's hard to do that because, again, like I said before, you sometimes don't even realize you're doing it. Like, Sometimes it's just the pull of wanting to be comfortable in a situation. Like, you know, maybe you say something because you're just like, that's what everybody else says. And it's like, you don't even realize you're trying to be like them because in your head, you're like, I would never say this. But, let me just say this so that, I'm not like,
On the outside.
maybe on the outside, but just
Mm-hmm.
like things aren't awkward or you don't want to make anything worse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely like a hard thing because you don't want to do that, and that goes into being authentic to yourself and being true and aligning your actions and values, and then also are you living honestly with people, because you don't want to lie to other people about who you are because that can like really drain your soul.
Absolutely, agreed. And with that comes personal growth. Do you want to
Yeah.
touch more on that?
Personal, I definitely think I can touch a lot into this with, my friend group in 7th and 8th grade. It was just, I don't want to say who was available to me, but who I saw the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really typically a part of this friend group, and this one girl brought me in. And, not all the girls liked me, and some of them did, and they were the more popular girls. And so although I might not have been on their closest inner circle or fully accepted in their group, I was, and that was enough to pull me in to want to keep trying to be, likable to them and make myself a certain way so that they would like me better, so that I could fit better in the group, and I would have a group to go to. And I should have been able to say, you know what? No, because if this is not me and this isn't truly what I like to hang around, then I shouldn't be forcing myself to be friends with these people because they're available to me.
I feel like along with that comes being honest about what you know. I
Yeah.
feel like when you're in a friend group where everyone's always hanging out and they have these inside jokes, and like let's say someone's chronically online and you're not, for example,
Right.
and they make a reference and you don't know it, but in order for you to feel
Oh,
comfortable and to fit
yeah.
in, you
You
pretend you
pretend.
do. And I feel like when it comes to living authentically, you address the fact that you don't know it. And
Yes.
address the fact that it is okay that you don't know everything they're talking about.
And I get how that can be scary and
Mm-hmm.
embarrassing, because I definitely have felt that myself, where I've done it before, where I've
Oh, yeah.
pretended to know something just to save face and be like, haha, yeah, I totally get the joke. And it's backfired, and sometimes it's worked.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they'll look at me and they'll be like, you don't even know that. Like, you're not even involved in this. Like, why are you doing that? And then I'm just like, and then it makes you feel worse.
Yeah. It
And
it makes it a more awkward situation than you already were in.
mm-hmm. And it's just like, if you were living authentically to yourself and you were like, yeah, I don't know it, and they're like, well, I can't believe you don't know that, then you can be like, that's not my fault. And you don't have anything really to feel bad about, because you have nothing to be embarrassed about
Right.
in reality, because you don't know what you don't know. Like, I'm not chronically brain rotted, and people say all these things, and I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, if you're going to make fun of me for that, like, sorry, that's just not what pops up on my feed. And then this ties into your mental well-being.
Right.
Living authentically can lead to increased happiness, self-esteem, and reduced anxiety and depression. You don't It's draining to be somebody you aren't. Like, if you're
Agreed.
feeling drained being around certain people or acting a certain way, and you're just like, gosh, I hate doing this, no one's telling you to.
Right, no one's telling you to. Living authentically removes the fact that you're a mirror, constantly trying to reflect what everyone else is, like, really being in front of you.
Yeah.
When you live authentically, you're, like, living comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
You're living without the stress of having to constantly fit in no matter what.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you said reduces the anxiety
Mm-hmm.
that comes with always trying to fit in.
Yeah. And we're not trying to say, like, if you're going, like, to somebody's house, and then you, like, don't like this person, and then you're like, we're being mean, but you're like, oh, well, it's draining to be nice to them. Like, no, that's not necessarily what we mean. Like, if it's draining to pretend to like things,
Mm-hmm.
or act certain ways, and you're like, this just, it doesn't feel like you, like, of course you still want to be a good person and all
Absolutely.
that, but ultimately, characteristic wise, You want to be true to who you are.
And if that means letting go of, friends, people that might not be the best for you, that's okay. And it is hard, and it'll take time. But if that helps you live more authentically,
right,
really you choose what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. So the main takeaway would probably be, again, like I said, our mantra. The key to living authentically is self-awareness. Who are you? Do you know who you are? And can you live up to that? And can you make sure that even in the face of other people, trends, and pressures to just feel comfortable, can you stay true to yourself?
Not to mention, can you stay honest and have integrity in situations where no one's looking at you?
Yes.
So that pretty much wraps up our teacher journal for this week.
Back to a sip of serenity.
To recap, this segment is basically a more in-depth segment on how to glow up physical and mental aspects of your life.
So for today, we'll be sticking with our authenticity theme and talking about the, quote, how when it comes to living authentically.
So let's start with cultivating self-awareness. Okay. The first step when cultivating self-awareness is to know yourself, which, as we said in the teacher journal, is to reflect on your values, beliefs, strengths, and weaknesses.
You can do this and you can start figuring this out by practicing mindfulness, which pay attention to your thoughts and feelings and sensations in the present moment without judgment. You can also do this, like we were saying in our past episode, by journaling. Journaling is a really good way to kind of reflect on who you are, and by rereading stuff and going back and looking at it, you can kind of pick out what you believe in and what's your vibe, you know?
That and confronting your feelings when it comes to certain matters.
Yeah.
So when we talked about earlier, you need to identify your core values, determine what truly matters to you, and let these guide your decisions.
Seek feedback, too. Ask trusted friends or mentors for honest feedback on how you're perceived. And so this goes along with your core values. So, if you feel like you're not acting to those standards, try looking at who you surround yourself with. Are these people that I agree with, more often than not? Are these people that I view as good people, or are these people like a drain on my mental health? And it's stuff like that that helps you to align your core values with who you're with and how you act. And then by seeking feedback from your friends, you can kind of gain clarity on whether or not you're actually doing that.
Like Sophia said, the close circle of friends that you have defines who you are. Those people have an effect on you regardless of the amount of walls you put up. Obviously, you can have friends with different beliefs and values as you, but in the end, know that some of those things will rub off on you if you let them get close or too close.
And it's almost like you leave. I know there's like an analogy out there that you leave your mark even just by like touching something or tracing. Like, of course, like you leave like your mark, like your. This sounds so gross, like your skin cells, like they rub off. Like you touch something and you're there, and like people can tell you're there if you study the area. But also that happens with people. The people that you meet, even in passing, can affect you and can change how you act and how you view the world. And to be very self-aware of that is very important.
Absolutely. The next step is to embrace vulnerability. Why don't you continue to touch on that?
So be open to sharing your true self. Allow yourself to be seen and known, including your imperfections.
This is a hard step to do, especially when you're meeting new people, showing your imperfections. I feel like this idea of showing your imperfections can come with what we talked about earlier and not knowing everything.
And honesty and integrity.
Absolutely. Like you said, don't afraid to be vulnerable. This can be challenging, but it's essential for building genuine connections.
And I don't think that necessarily means like up front you have to be like, oh, this is every wrong I've ever done in my life.
No.
Like, as time goes through, if something happens and something comes up, don't lie about it. Say, yeah, in the past I did this. Or if you're feeling yourself getting close to someone and you're like, hey, can I tell you this somewhat deeper thing about me? And you get a good vibe from them and they're like, yeah, of course. go for it and, be honest and true about who you are. Like, don't try to hide things, bad things, or even good things in the past because, just because you want to be seen for, a certain way. You always want to be seen for who you truly are.
Absolutely. And last in this section is to learn from your mistakes, which is embracing imperfections and seeing them as opportunities for growth.
I know I definitely did this the past few months, and I've made some questionable choices in who I've surrounded myself with, but also I gained a valuable experience from that, and I learned stuff from surrounding myself with that person and realizing this is not something I deserved or should be around. And now I can kind of use that as a gauge as I move throughout my life and say, no, if I see something like that again, I know that's a bad sign.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of teens go through this little phase of surrounding themselves with the wrong kind of people and seeing themselves turn into someone who they're not. And then bouncing back from that and learning from their mistakes and realizing that is not who I want to be.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think it's important that we look at that too when we do make those mistakes and we do end up letting ourselves be surrounded by those people because it's okay, to make those mistakes. Like, you don't have to be perfect. And, like, if you do end up surrounding yourself with, not so great people, what's important is that you're, again, honest about that and you're self aware and you're able to pull yourself out of that situation.
Absolutely. The next step is to align your actions with your values. So, this would mean to make choices that reflect on your values and ensuring your actions are consistent with your beliefs and what you find important and not what anyone else does.
And we did touch on this, in some of the previous steps, I believe, but to go a little bit more in depth, if you see someone doing something in a friend group, and you're like, I don't really agree with that, and I don't think they should be doing that, but then you also don't want to be seen as maybe like a snitch or a goody two shoes or just annoying in general. But I'm like, if that doesn't sit right with you and you were like, I feel like I should do something about it because it's your gut feeling and that's what you truly believe you should
Absolutely.
be doing in the moment.
And there are ways to watch out for your friend's well-being or mention something that can be anonymous as well.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I know our school has like the Safe to Say program. And I know that's not hugely popular like to use among us teens because I think as unloyal as we are, we're very loyal to certain aspects of, teen culture of not snitching and not riding and, you know, ultimately being loyal to, I guess, our age group and our grade as a whole and just being like, if I see something and something happens and I don't necessarily agree with it, I'm not going to mess it up for that person. I'll just shut my mouth and move on.
And when it really comes to making choices that reflect your values, I feel like it's not just what you choose to mention about other people, but more importantly, how you choose to act.
Yeah.
And so if your whole friend group, for example, is doing something that your values don't align with, it is okay to say no. It is okay to say, I'm going to step away for this one. I'm so good.
Yeah. And this is also not to say, like, if some people, don't agree with you on everything, they're not a bad person, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't be surrounding yourself with them.
Absolutely.
It should also be like, are they, again, to touch back on, are they draining my life? Do I feel like I have to put up a facade around this person or act a certain way? Or can I just, chill and be me? And that's really important. And that also shows that you align with your actions and values because you're not acting a certain way for somebody. And then you can further this by, setting meaningful goals.
Absolutely. So, do you want to continue on setting meaningful goals?
Sure. So pursue goals that align again with your values and bring you a sense of purpose.
So we actually mention healthy goals.
Yeah, setting how to set healthy goals.
Yes. And in a previous episode, and I feel like that's a really good place to touch on when it comes to setting meaningful and goals that are healthy and not, draining.
Yeah. And also, like, I know there's a lot of pressure from people, so let's take for example, your family's pressuring you to go into a certain career. It's not just friends that can pressure you, family can pressure you too.
Absolutely.
And you need to, depending on your family dynamic, pushing back isn't always bad. It's all about how you do it. You got to do it respectfully. But, if you're not into that field, say your parents want you to be a doctor, but you hate biology, you hate learning about the human body, and you'd much rather learn about how the stock market works. But they're like, no, finance is stupid. That's ultimately not, you're gonna drain your life by pursuing something that you don't technically, or not technically, you don't necessarily enjoy.
I mean, you should do what you enjoy, make work fun for yourself.
Yes. And you're not going to feel a sense of purpose, and it's just you're gonna again be putting up this act for the people in your life, which is not a good thing that you want to do.
And this ties into being true to yourself in all situations, not trying to be someone you're not to please others.
Yeah, and people pleasing is a big thing that I know we talk a lot about in other episodes, but it's especially, I think, true in this scenario.
Absolutely. So the next step is to develop courage and boundaries. Stand up for what you believe in, and don't be afraid to voice your opinions and belief, even if they differ from others.
I mean, definitely, because this goes back, if this is all, honesty. I'm seeing a lot of honesty and self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll update the mantra. So the key to living authentically is self-awareness and honesty. So, I mean, do you develop those courage and boundaries? I know I needed to develop a lot of boundaries in my life.
You did.
I mean, but it's also
mm-hmm.
And I learned how to do that through my terrible experiences.
I think we all did develop our boundaries after these horrible experiences. And I feel like it helped all of us in the end. Learning from our mistakes, like we mentioned earlier, is what builds us all up.
Mm-hmm.
From our core beliefs and values.
There's no way you're going to learn where your boundaries lie, though, if stuff doesn't happen. And I think living authentically doesn't necessarily mean that bad things aren't going to happen to you or people aren't going to not like you and stuff like that.
When you live authentically, you will find your people.
Yes.
I feel like if the people that you're around right now aren't a big fan of your authentic living, then they're not the people for you.
Oh, yeah. And, high school is such a small part of your life. And middle school is such a small part of your life. And I know my mom always tells me, she's like, when you go to college, Sophia, there's going to be so many more people. And she's like, you're going to find people that, fit with you. And even if you find them in high school or even middle school, that's great. But if you don't, it's not the end all be all. There's going to be people out there, but this is just everybody's in an awkward stage and
mm-hmm.
nobody knows what they're doing. I don't even know what I'm doing still, and I'm probably one of the healthier people in my grade.
Also, finding someone that wants to grow with you is so helpful. I know Sophia and I found each other.
Oh, yes.
And it doesn't have to be romantic.
No.
Finding someone to grow with. I know my best friend is one of those people that I grow with. Sophia is 100% one of those people that I grew with and am still growing with.
Yeah, and I'm glad because that's, I think, another thing you should look for when you're, trying to live authentically and you're surrounding yourself and you're like, how do I surround myself with the best people? Who can you grow with? Who will allow you to grow and it's not going to be static,
Mm-hmm.
So, and that goes into, setting healthy boundaries. Do you protect your time and energy and emotional well-being by saying no to things that don't align with your values?
Absolutely. And in doing this, you can be willing to let go of what no longer serves you. And this could be relationships, habits, or commitments that are holding you back.
And again, a lot of self-reflection goes into that because we might not even realize that you're in a commitment that is holding you back, or you're in a friend group that's holding you back, or you're in a job or some sort of situation that's holding you back. And I think that's where you go and you have to reevaluate, how do I feel in this situation? Where is this, ultimately taking me?
How can this help me grow?
Mm-hmm.
Can it help me grow?
And then, habits. habits are huge.
Absolutely.
You know, we all develop habits as a result of even people we're around. And I think we all can pick out bad habits too. Like, I think we all know when we're like, I probably shouldn't be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But, habits are hard to break.
And an example of a habit that might be holding you back is, like, from living authentically, is what we mentioned before, which is pretending you know something that you don't.
Yes.
That is a habit that, for me, was actually very hard to break.
Oh, I still even do it now.
Really?
Not I think to the extreme point, and this is me living up to my imperfections, right. But even in like it might just be like a fleeting thing, and I'll just be like, okay, but I probably shouldn't have said that because that's not it. Like I'm not at the point where I completely lie and like pretend I know something when I don't.
Oh yeah.
But it might be like a half truth or a half lie, like, yeah, I get that kind of, but like, can you like re-explain it to me, or
I feel like I do stuff it satirically.
Like that? Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Really? No.
Oh yeah, I definitely do it satirically too, but like I still find myself even in if I'm getting like super uncomfortable in a situation and I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm getting like I just want like, to feel like keep the conversation going, or keep the okay vibe that we had just for the time being. I would definitely like to save face might say something, and sometimes I think it might be okay, but you have to feel out the situation.
Absolutely.
So,
do you want to go ahead?
Practicing self-love and acceptance.
And that is the last step, which is accepting yourself, flaws and all. Authenticity involves accepting your imperfections and celebrating your strengths. I feel like this ties in with understanding who you are as a person and not being afraid of who you are.
Yes. And I also want to say, some people aren't going to accept it, but it's not your job to make them accept it either. Because then they're not right. They shouldn't be there.
Exactly. When you're living authentically, you shouldn't be changing yourself so other people like you.
Yes.
You should be changing not what other people like you, but really prioritizing yourself over who you surround yourself with. And that doesn't mean ignoring them completely and having them only do stuff for you, but really, if the people in your life don't want to be or hang out with the true you, it's time for a change.
And you have to, accepting yourself first is the biggest step, because if you can't accept yourself, then how do you expect other people to accept you as well? And or how do you expect yourself to find people who will accept you if you can't accept yourself? Like, you don't want to be constantly fighting people, like, just for a very superficial, easy metaphor. If, you can't believe that you're pretty, but everybody else around you is like, oh, you are pretty. They're not going to want to be around someone who's constantly fighting them on something and being like, no, because then eventually it gets annoying and you're not really living authentically, and then it's just like, accept everything, positive and bad. Like,
exactly.
Learning to take compliments, I think, is also like something that's, it's can finagle.
As a people pleaser myself, I find it harder to take compliments.
Yeah.
I don't like constructive criticism either. But surprisingly, I find criticism easier than I do compliments.
Yes, and I think that's very common, because I feel like sometimes it's hard to believe when you get a compliment. Like, something happened the other day where someone was like saying like, oh, they might like me, and I literally could not believe it, and I was like, no, like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? But the moment that it kind of flipped and they were like, oh, they might not like you, immediately I believed it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, so how come I couldn't believe that somebody did like me?
But it's easy to believe.
And I think we often fall into believing a negative version of ourselves. And that's something you also have to be careful of, when living authentically, is it's okay to accept, the good things too.
And you can forgive yourself for your mistakes.
And And this goes into, making sure you have good people around you to keep you straight and make sure you are getting a clear vision and good feedback of, what's actually happening.
Absolutely.
So you can forgive yourself for mistakes. Don't dwell on past errors, but learn from them and move forward. Don't berate yourself over and over again, but rather be like, okay, I did this, but that's over now. That's over,
and how can I better myself from this? What
Definitely.
can I learn from this?
And then nurture your well-being. Prioritize your physical and mental and emotional health.
And you can do this in so many ways. We have so many episodes on nurturing yourself, self-care for busy lives, therapeutic benefits of creative expression,
the importance of sleep, journaling, your support system. It's literally every episode.
Every episode.
So, yeah.
Honestly, listening to this podcast is a very good way to nurture your well-being. Might I add?
Might I add?
Quick little plug.
But this is also something we do to help nurture our well-being because
Absolutely.
we can talk things out and nurture something that we know we need to do, and Absolutely. That's good for us.
And Sophia and I learned so much from writing and talking in this podcast.
Oh, yes,
we
definitely.
do a lot of research prior to almost every single episode.
And we enjoy it, and that's the important thing, is we learned that we found something that we love. So to wrap it up, again, I think I've said the mantra like 400 times.
As you should have. It is a very good mantra.
The key to living authentically is, self-awareness and honesty. You want to make sure you're honest to yourself and you're aware of who you are and what you believe in, but also, you're able to accept certain things, compliments and all.
Okay, so that's the end of A Sip of Serenity. Thank you so much for listening to the last episode of Season 1.
I hope you'll join us for Season 2 on Sip and Spill.